Hello and welcome to NATO Inside. Today, under the title Ankara, a turning point for NATO, we discuss with Marek Varga, Slovakia's ambassador to NATO. He is joining us at the headquarters of the alliance in Brussels. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much.
He built his career at Slovakia's Foreign Affairs and Defense Ministries, specializing in politico-military affairs, conflicts and intelligence. He served with the EU monitoring mission in former Yugoslavia, worked as military expert in Washington during NATO accession talks, and occupied senior analyst roles at the European Union military staff. Since 2020, he has been ambassador to Lebanon, Iraq, and Jordan. He has held the post of Slovakia's ambassador to NATO in Brussels since September 2024. Before we talk about the role of Slovakia within the alliance and the impact of armed conflict in Ukraine from NATO's and Slovakia's perspective, we want to analyze the political role of the most influential member of the NATO, the United States under President Donald Trump. But first, as this format is named NATO Inside, we will talk about the recent summit of the alliance in Ankara and if it was a positive turning point for the alliance. Ambassador, before we come to the details and if it was really a positive turning point, there was a gift of President Erdogan to all the heads of the delegations. Some say famous gift, some say infamous gift, depending on the perspective. It was a revolver for everyone who didn't know about it or doesn't know about it. What did Peter Pellegrini, the president of your country and head of the delegation, did when he realized this is it? I mean, there were some, like the Belgian Prime Minister, who realized it at the airport in Brussels and then gave it to the police, or however. There were different ways to deal with this a bit unusual, let's say, host gift of the President of Turkey.
First, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you very much for this very interesting question at the beginning. But I have to say that for my president, it wasn't too much unusual, if I may say like this.
Okay.
Because just before the summit, he was conducting his second iteration of the training of the national defense forces. So I think he was quite impressed by the gift, but at the same time, as the conducting this training, he was probably eager to test it sometimes in the near future. So on one side, it is something that is remarkable as the presence. On the other side, of course, he was following and fulfilling all regulations in terms of the import of small arms. But at the same time, as I said, because of conducting trainings, probably he was seeking to any chance in the future to test it.
Okay. Let's come to the summit itself. I just mentioned it. Was it a positive turning point? I mean, there were some frictions, and before the beginning of the summit in Ankara, President Trump said something not too polite about Spain, for example, and we don't want to repeat it. But however, what do you think was the outcome? Can we say it was a positive turning point?
At the beginning, I have to say that we have to take into account the whole geopolitical situation.
Yeah.
The war in Ukraine is undermining the whole European security architecture, and we need to take into account also the global instability. So all those elements were influencing the situation before the summit. Therefore, we were focusing on really strong outcomes from this leaders gathering in Ankara. I think all leaders were fully aware of the situation, and the outcome at the end, I think, was very positive.
Yeah.
It was stressing the alliance unity, stressing the role of all members of alliance in providing sufficient funds, sufficient effort into building sufficient capabilities. And this was kind of mid-term review, if I may say like this, after the Hague Summit, where we pledged to have a quite steep increase in defense investment into our defense. So therefore, I think with confirming our strong support to Article 5, our support to increase our capabilities, and our support to Ukraine, there were three main issues that were going out of the summit. And this is the reason why I truly believe that the summit was a successful event.
And you said three main issues. What was most important from your point of view? Or what really, which had a...
I think out of these three, of course, we can go into more granular discussion on all three of them. But because starting with building capabilities, of course, we had to look also into the whole structure of the capabilities. And U.S. coming to the summit, their main concern was that the capabilities are not equally shared, and the process of how to get into sufficient strength equally distributed among allies was something that we had to take into account. So therefore, the main buzzword, which was probably quite often being heard, burden shifting, was something which was, I would say, take into account all other issues, probably the most important thing to be taken into account.
Coming to burden shifting, as you just mentioned it, the president and the president of the United States, strongest member of the alliance, he and his government, they are at the moment still checking where they can withdraw troops from Europe. Some spots in Poland and in Germany, as Ramstein, for example. How do you look on this, or are there already some developments which makes you hopeful? Looking on the European security, you just mentioned Ukraine, etc. I don't have to explain you anything about it.
When the current U.S. administration started to communicate this kind of effort, it was quite clearly being seen in both strategies being presented from the U.S. administration. I think this rebalancing was one of the main issues that were communicating to us for years, if not decades. The U.S. was continuously telling us that, okay, Europe, you are becoming sufficiently prosperous, so you have to also equally invest into your defense and deterrence. So therefore, our leaders were already aware of this situation, and by pledging the 5% of GDP into defense at the Hague summit, I think it was clear that we have to also think about how to change the share of responsibility between the US and Europe.
So in simple words, making the European part of the NATO stronger.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Because stronger Europe needs also stronger NATO. Yeah. So therefore, I think it happened in all families. You have to discuss it. You have to find a compromise, and this was something that was, as I mentioned, continuously being communicated from the US side. Take more responsibility for the defense and deterrence of European continent.
Yeah, you just mentioned the 5% of GDP until 35, coming a bit to Slovakia, which you are representing here at the headquarters in Brussels. How are the discussions in your country, if you can elaborate a bit on this? Because there were some discussions a bit, you correct me if I'm wrong, at the summit also, or how much aid for Ukraine should be provided together with Hungary, I think. Yes.
No, if we take 5%, of course, it has been a huge discussion in Slovakia.
It's everywhere.
Before, of course, everywhere, before the Hague summit. I remember the situation when I was briefing my leaders to try to explain what does it mean. But you have to go into more granular discussion and telling, okay, what does it mean 3.5 for core defense? What does it mean 1.5 for related defense and security? But when you go into these details, you realize that the 5%, particularly when you take into account the Slovak armed forces, you have to be frank to yourself. And you have to put on one side, of course, security and defense, and security of your nation, and on the other hand, also the social benefits and everything. So I think this is, within the political leadership, it was quite well thought through, and I think we came to the conclusion that this is the only way how we can do it. Therefore, Slovakia presented the long-term defense plan, which is supposed to bring 3.5% for core defense by the 2034. On the other hand, of course, it has to go hand in hand with the building real capabilities in order to be able to invest what is needed and to find a way how it's sustainable in terms of your relationship with your public, in order to not to lose the support. So I think this was also is also quite critical, and understanding the regional dynamics and to see what the Ukrainian war is bringing to Europe. I think these negative effects, but also in the same time understanding that we have to take care of our own defense. So therefore, we have to invest.
Okay. Before we come a bit more to Slovakia, to your country, and some internal political questions, let's talk a bit more about Ukraine. At the moment, it looks like, or what experts are saying, you might have a comment on this now, that the Ukrainian military is a bit advancing towards Russia, or there are some positive outcomes. It's even that far that, for example, in the Middle East conflict with Iran, for time reasons, we are not talking too much about it today, but Ukraine is exporting military expertise, especially on drones, to a lot of Arabic states. Do you think it's a strength or an overstretch of security, Western security priorities?
My feeling and my full understanding is that Ukraine is fighting for its territorial integrity and sovereignty. They are able, or they've been able throughout those 4 years and fifth year already of the fighting, to prove that they were able to build sufficient defense and also the societal resilience in order to be able to respond to aggression coming from Moscow. Of course, there are some weak points that needs to be helped with, and I think Ukraine changed its role, being security receiver to being a security provider. And this is very important for Europe as a whole, because then they can count on the role of Ukraine within the European security architecture. Of course, we can see also the interaction of Ukraine with the Middle Eastern countries, because the knowledge and the expertise they were gaining throughout those 5 years, I think they are becoming very, very unique. Because when you have a real-time fighting experience, you can bring your expertise to the defense industry, to change the military doctrines, and this is very unique. So I think Ukraine right now understands the role what is playing, and trying to capitalize on that one by having more support for those capabilities that are still missing on the Ukraine battlefield.
Do you think it's an overstretch of the Western security priorities if they export drone technology and knowledge to?
I think it's two-way street. So on one side, you have expertise coming from Ukraine. On the other hand, of course, with the building our own capabilities, this is the process which is helping us to build right capabilities for the current fighting expertise or current security environment. So I don't think so that it's weakening us. I think it's unfortunate having this war on our continent, but if it happen, then try to use it as much as we can into building right capabilities for having strong defense and deterrence against potential adversaries.
However, differently to a lot of mainly Central and Eastern European countries, Slovakia, maybe beside Hungary, but Hungary is a bit changing under the new government of Magyar Péter, is a bit less transactional towards Ukraine, selling tanks or other technologies. Why is that?
The war lasts already for 50 years.
The full-scale invasion.
Yeah, full-scale invasion. Slovakia from the beginning was very close to support Ukraine.
Yes.
We were providing capabilities that they were not yet offered
a lot
by
of Soviet technology,
offered by
Soviet
other countries, exactly, like air defense system S-300 or MiG-29 jets. Unfortunately, we were not able to provide anything else because our inventory was almost empty. So therefore, we had to start actually resupplying and refilling our storages with, of course, units with the new equipment. So it was a certain gap what we need to refill. On the other hand, also the new government, the current government, Slovak government, clearly stated in its manifesto that they are going to provide anything but a little support to Ukraine. So therefore, it was much more about non-lethal support, about energy provision, humanitarian aid, shelters, and some other things. The relationship between Ukraine and Slovak government is unique because of being neighbors.
Yes.
Of course, it's also affected by the historical issues. We are not alone in this type of relationship.
Hungary.
Yeah, Hungary or Poland and so on and so forth. So I think within this existing situation, and for example, it was also mentioned by our Minister of Foreign Affairs at the summit that Slovak and Ukrainian governments, they are going to meet for the fourth time in September, discussing the cross-border issues which are helping Ukraine to have more infrastructural issues to be solved. And we were quite strong in providing energy supplies and providing different type of non-lethal support in the past.
Is there anything else you just mentioned? It's a cabinet meeting, no?
It's a cabinet meeting.
It's a cabinet meeting.
Joint cabinet meeting.
Joint cabinet meeting. So both governments are meeting.
Yeah.
And which other aims you could imagine you would like to reach in the relationships of both countries?
To have equal, strong bilateral neighboring relationship. I think this is the from both sides is the ultimate game.
Okay.
Aim.
Will it also be about the frictions we had in spring about the Druzhba pipeline?
Mm-hmm.
And there were some. It was destroyed, and then there were some frictions because Slovakia is quite much depending on Russian fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm.
This also has historical reasons. I don't have to tell you more about it, but will it be an issue on this meeting, or are these frictions over?
I think it's coming from the past when we were in the European architecture or the energy architecture. We were at the beginning of the whole chain. Now we are at the end of the chain because of the existing system. And Slovakia, also within the Czechoslovakia, we used to be quite heavily dependent on energy because of the type of industry we were having on our soil. So therefore, I think the slow transformation or the transformation which is going on, respecting the European Union or the European countries' decisions, I think we are trying to get into the situation to be as less reliant on Russian energy, hydrocarbons as possible, but at the same time not to be completely reliant on somebody else. So the diversification is probably the main aim of the current government.
Yeah.
So to be less reliant on one big source, and this is the reason why, at that moment when the Druzhba pipeline was hit, I think it was very sensitive, particularly for efficiency of our industry in order to provide all those outputs what were planned.
Yeah, you just talked about the energy vulnerabilities of your country. How did you balance national interest and alliance and your alliance solidarity?
I think it's very good.
Is it an issue?
It's a very good question. Of course, we try to be strong ally. To be strong ally, you have to have a strong economy. And strong economy means that you, as I mentioned in the previous question, while we have still quite heavy industry, I don't know whether you know, but Slovakia is the biggest producer of cars per capita in the world. So this is energy quite dependent industry. So therefore we need to have a certain balance how to be able to sustain this development. So with strong economy we are able to invest 3.5 in the core defense and to buy capacities or capabilities that are needed to fulfill our obligations within the coalition defense plans, to be able to have to be strong contributor in the eastern flank defense of the alliance. So I think from our side, with this we can modernize. I don't know whether you know, but our portion of our defense budget is about 35% to modernization. So also to have a sufficient employment of soldiers into our armed forces. Just recently we were quite successful in national defense forces, which are reservist elements of our armed forces. It was quite a huge success with getting about 13,000 new potential reservist troops to be able to contribute in case that any conflict will appear at our territory. So I think it goes hand in hand. If you have a strong economy, then you can invest. If you can invest, then you can be strong security provider for the coalition defense.
Okay, how, let's say, NATO's role would further weaken? We all hope not, I guess, or you especially. But who could fill this vacuum? Back to my initial questions I asked before, would there something be like a more stronger European alliance, I mean, from the political point of view? If the United States are pulling more and more out, and the tendency looks like this, who could fill this vacuum?
I do not completely agree that the United States are pulling out. I think it's this rebalancing or burden shifting is just bringing more Europe. So I think in the future...
Is it good for the continent?
I think it's very good for the continent. Of course, we have to have a support of defense industry, but at the same time, I think more European and more stronger European presence in Europe is bringing more stability in the transatlantic relationship. My feeling is that I'm looking around, and because I was working as the strategic analyst leading the team, I was always looking into a global scale and trying to sense what are the strategic mega trends, if I may say like this. And I do not feel that NATO is pulling out from the global power grid, if I may say like this. I think NATO for 78 years was a stronger provider of security. It's probably the strongest alliance in the world, And the latest summit, I think, confirms that we are having toward a strong partnership and with strong Europe to be a strong NATO in the future.
Is there a unity of who might be the strongest or the most difficult threat for NATO, for the alliance?
For the time being, we can see that Russia and China is becoming more close to each other. I don't think so that this is very positive for Russia because it's becoming a junior partner, and China is, of course, capitalizing on this relationship. Yes, on one side it could be this type of relationship, but at the same time, I think Western community, if I may say like this, but more transatlantic community, is strong enough and with sufficient investment into defense, sufficient and strong defense industry, I think we can prove that our policy to protect ourselves, to have a strong defense and deterrence is good for stabilizing our societies and bringing prosperity into our nations.
Before I come to my last question, one other question for the future. You just several times we talked about Ukraine, and it's a neighbor of your country, of Slovakia. Where do you see the future of this country? I know it's a question into the glass bowl, but however, what would you assume? Where would Ukraine stand in 10 years? Will it be part of the alliance?
Our hope is that Ukraine will become the member of the European Union.
Yeah.
Of course, it's about
but this will last
economic
at least 10 years or longer.
Yeah, but also accession process is bringing a lot of stability.
Yeah.
And I think Ukraine proved to be strong enough in terms of the security provision. But also, I think the closer bilateral relationship between the members of NATO is bringing closer Ukraine within the NATO community without existing or without factual membership. So this type of interlinks between Ukraine and between Ukraine and allies is creating base for stable development in Ukraine, which will also help to bring European membership into reality. And Slovakia is very strong supporter of the European membership for Ukraine.
Okay. Last question. How does NATO look like in 5 or let's say 10 years?
I think it's going to be more stronger. I think it's going to be more, or will create the ability to react quickly and in a proper way on different threats, because we have malign activities coming from Russia, from China, from Iran, from elsewhere. So the development into or different type of threats that are evolving from the global development, of course, needs to be tackled by allies collectively. I think with the trajectory being set by the Hague Summit, we are going in the right direction. War in Ukraine is showing us that, of course, the tanks and the APCs and jets are a very important element. But there are also many other issues that are showing us how to be strong enough to deter potential adversaries against our alliance. So I think I'm not have a clear crystal ball for 5 or 10 years, but I think we are on the good track. And deriving from the Hague Summit and from Ankara Summit, we are on the good way to become even stronger and even more transatlantic.
Okay. Mr. Varga, Ambassador, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.